Hey Reddit, I really never thought I'd be one to share my personal life on here, but I guess I need to get this out because I honestly feel like I'm going crazy. It all started a few months ago, but looking back, I think the signs were always there. My wife, let's call her Claire, started taking a lot more Ubers than usual. We don't have kids, so it's not like we're tied down with car seats and all that. I work from home and Claire, she's got this PR job that keeps her out and about all day. Sometimes, she'd just prefer not to drive and call an Uber instead. At first, I didn't think much of it. She'd claim she was tired, needed to catch up on emails while en route, or just wanted to avoid parking downtown. But something changed. She started getting the same driver every single time. At first, she just mentioned it in passing like, "Oh, yeah, it's this nice guy named Evan. He's always around when I need a ride." Crazy coincidence, right? And again, I didn't think much of it. Oh, Evan was saying his wife left him. Poor guy. Evan knows all the best coffee shops downtown. He showed me this great little spot. Evan said, Evan this, Evan that. Now, maybe I was a bit naive, but I trusted Claire. We've been married for 5 years, no kids. No big issues, really. If anything, things seem fine. But, yeah, I guess fine doesn't mean much when you're being lied to right to your face. I should have known something was up when she started going out more. Errands that would normally take an hour stretched into 3. "Oh, traffic was awful," she'd say, or, "I ended up stopping at a store I wasn't planning on going to." Every time I asked why it took so long, she'd act annoyed, like I was overreacting for even asking. Why are you always questioning me? Can a woman just get some fresh air without being interrogated? Looking back, that was her deflecting, but I was still in the dark. Things really started to shift when Claire began hanging out with Evan outside of her Uber rides. Of course, I didn't know this right away, because she fed me a line of BS about how she and a few co-workers were going to a happy hour after work. "It's just networking," she'd say. "It's good for my job." And yeah, I bought that too. I mean, who questions their wife over a couple of drinks with co? But then it started happening more often. She'd meet up with her co-workers twice, sometimes 3 times a week. I asked why I couldn't come along sometime, just to be part of it. That's when she hit me with, "Oh, you wouldn't know anyone there. It's all work stuff, super boring." I shrugged it off, figuring she was right. But the little red flags were starting to pop up everywhere, and I just wasn't seeing them for wah. Then one night, I caught her texting under the table during dinner. Claire's never been the type to hide her phone, but this time, she was being oddly secretive about it. She kept her screen tilted away from me, and every time I tried to glance at it, she'd snap it shut like she was guarding a national secret. "Who's that?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Oh, it's just Amy Fro." Now, I'm not a complete idiot. I asked her to let me see the messages, just jokingly, because by this point, I was starting to get suspicious. She flipped out, like full-on defensive mode. "Why do you always need to know everything?" she snapped. "Can't I have some privacy?" Jesus, it's just work stuff. Why are you being so P? It didn't sit right with me, but she's always been kind of high-strung, so I let it go, thinking maybe I was being. Evan Wah. She'd been lying to me about those meetups. It wasn't happy hours with co-workers. I didn't confront her that night. I should have, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. I mean, who cheats on their husband with their Uber driver? It sounded ridiculous, like something out of a trashy soap opera. I wanted to believe that maybe I'd misread the situation, that there was some innocent explanation, but deep down I knew. Over the next few days, I tried to shake it off, but Claire kept pushing my buttons. She started coming home even later, always with some lame excuse. Evan gave me a ride because I had too many drinks, or we went to this new place, you'd hate it, super crowded. The excuses were so obvious, it was like she didn't even care if I suspected anything anymore. I started noticing other changes too. She was suddenly obsessed with how she looked. New clothes, more makeup, and she even got her hair done, which she never really cared about before. When I asked why she was dressing up so much, she hit me with this line. A woman likes to feel good about herself. Is that a crime? The final straw was one night, when she said she was going to stay late at the office to work on a big presentation. Now, I don't know why, but something in my gut told me to check the Uber app on her phone. She usually left it lying around, and I knew her password. I logged in and pulled up her ride history, and there it was. She wasn't at the office. She'd been picked up by Evan about 20 minutes after she left the house, and the drop-off location was nowhere near her office. It was some random residential address on the other side of town. I felt like an idiot. I'd been ignoring every sign, every red flag, and now it was all right there in my face. But I still didn't confront her. Instead, I decided to wait. I needed to be 100% sure before I did anything. I wasn't going to let her weasel out of this with more lies. I needed proof. So I made a plan. After I saw her ride history, I knew I couldn't sit back and wait anymore. I needed solid proof. Something she couldn't lie her way out of, and I was done playing the clueless husband. So I decided to follow her. Yeah, I know. It sounds crazy, but I had to see it with my own eyes. The next night, Claire told me she had another late meeting with her team. I acted like everything was normal, even kissed her goodbye on her way out the door. As soon as she left, I grabbed my keys and quietly followed her, keeping a safe distance so she wouldn't notice. Sure enough, after a few blocks, I saw her hop in Evan's car, same damn car she always used. But instead of heading downtown, they took a turn toward the residential area I'd seen in her Uber app. I stayed a couple of cars behind, trying not to let my anger get the best of me. All I could think about was how stupid I'd been to trust her. After about 10 minutes, they pulled up to a house I didn't recognize. I parked a little ways down the street, my heart racing. I watched as Claire got out of the car, smiling and laughing with Evan like she didn't have a care in the world. They walked up to the house, and I saw him open the door for her. She glanced around, like she was checking to make sure no one was watching, then slipped inside. I waited for a few minutes, just sitting in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to storm up to that door and start banging on it, but I stopped myself. I needed more than just seeing them together. I needed to catch her in the act. So I waited. After what felt like forever, I got out of my car and quietly made my way closer to the house. There was a side window near the driveway, and I crept up to it, keeping low. I didn't want to believe what I'd see next, but I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Through the window, I saw Claire, her arms around Evan, kissing him like she'd forgotten she was married. Then, things escalated quickly. They didn't waste any time. Within minutes, clothes were being tossed aside, and before I knew it, they were having sex right there on the living room couch. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Everything I'd suspected, every lie she'd told me, it was all right in front of me. My wife, the woman I'd been with for 5 years, was screwing her Uber driver while I was at home, none the wiser. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or kick the door down, but one thing was for sure. I was done being her fool. I don't know how long I stood there, watching through that window, but it felt like a lifetime. I wanted to confront Claire right then and there, but I knew I had to be strategic. I couldn't let her twist the situation to her advantage. When they finally finished, Claire was the first to get up, hurriedly dressing and straightening herself. Evan was more relaxed, taking his time. I waited until they were both outside, and I followed them discreetly back to the car. They had no idea I was tailing them. Claire got into the car, and Evan drove her back to the city. I followed behind them the entire way. As soon as they reached the downtown area, I pulled over and called her. I could hear her phone ringing in the car. She answered, sounding frazzled. "Hey, Claire, where are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, I'm just heading home now." "Why?" she replied, her voice shaky. "I was thinking about stopping by to surprise you," I said. "But it sounds like you're not home yet. Maybe I should just head back." No, no, wait, she said quickly. I'm actually just a few minutes away. I'll see you soon. I hung up and drove back to our house, making sure to time it so that I'd be home when she arrived. I needed to make sure I had all the evidence I needed before she could spin any more lies. When Claire walked in, she looked nervous, but tried to play it cool. "Hey, you're home early," she said, forcing a smile. "I'm not here to chit-chat," I said, cutting straight to the point. "I saw everything, Claire. I know about Evan. I saw you with him." Her face went pale, and for a moment, she just stood there, stunned. Then the defensiveness kicked in. "What are you talking about? You're crazy," she shouted. "You followed me? Are you spying on me now? I saw you both. I saw you having sex with him," I said, my voice cold. "Don't try to deny it." Claire's reaction was almost comical in its desperation. "Oh, so you've been following me? You're the one with the problem here." "I don't owe you any explanations," she screamed, her voice rising. "And you think you're so perfect? You're always home, doing nothing." I was taken aback by her audacity. "This isn't about me," I said. "This is about you cheating on me. And frankly, I'm done with your lies." Claire's demeanor shifted rapidly from anger to hysteria. She started crying, pleading, and throwing out every excuse she could think of. "I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I don't know why I did it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Her tears, her pleas, they all seemed so hollow. I knew then that there was no point in trying to salvage our relationship. The trust was gone, and I couldn't see a way back from this. "I'm filing for divorce," I said firmly. "You've made your choice, and now I'm making mine." Claire's cries grew louder as she realized I wasn't backing down. But I'd made up my mind. I had to end this mess before it destroyed me any further. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions and chaos. Claire was a mess, hysterical, erratic, and desperate. She tried every trick in the book to convince me to reconsider. She showed up at my work, called me incessantly, and even sent me long, tearful messages pleading for another chance. But I was resolute. I needed to move on. Claire eventually packed up her things and moved out, but not before making a scene. She screamed at me, calling me heartless and accusing me of ruining her life. It was dramatic, to say the least. I tried to stay calm, but the anger bubbling inside me made it difficult. It felt surreal, like I was living in some kind of nightmare. With Claire gone, I focused on sorting out the practical aspects of our separation. I consulted a lawyer and started preparing for the divorce proceedings. The lawyer was efficient and empathetic, and I appreciated the support. We talked about the division of assets, and thankfully, we didn't have much to fight over. No kids, no shared business, just a few pieces of furniture and our savings. Claire's response to the divorce papers was expectedly dramatic. She hired a lawyer of her own and contested everything she could. She demanded more money than she was entitled to and tried to drag the process out, hoping to wear me down. But I was determined. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into giving her more than she deserved. One day, I received a letter from Claire's lawyer accusing me of being unreasonable and demanding that I meet her at a mediator's office to discuss the terms. I agreed to the meeting, mainly to expedite the process and put an end to her tactics. At the mediation, Claire was still full of theatrics. She showed up in an extravagant dress, trying to make a statement. She played the victim card, insisting that I was being unfair and that she deserved more consideration. I listened to her lawyer's arguments, and despite the attempts to drag things out, the mediator and I were able to reach a fair agreement. As I signed the final paperwork, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. It was over. The life I had envisioned with Claire was gone, replaced by a painful but necessary end to our marriage. It was time to start over and focus on my own healing. The days that followed were a mix of adjusting to single life and dealing with the emotional aftermath. I threw myself into work and tried to find solace in new routines. I surrounded myself with supportive friends and family, and slowly, I began to rebuild. Despite the heartache, I knew that ending the relationship was the right decision. I had learned the hard way about trust and betrayal, but I was determined to come out stronger on the other side. The divorce process was finally winding down, and life was starting to regain a semblance of normalcy. I was adjusting to being on my own and focusing on work and self-care. But just when I thought things were settling, Claire decided to make one last dramatic move. One afternoon, I received a call from a mutual friend, Sarah, who sounded quite concerned. "Hey, have you talked to Claire recently?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. "Not really," I replied. "Why?" "Claire's been posting some really disturbing stuff online. It looks like she's having a public meltdown." I didn't think much of it at first, but curiosity got the better of me. I checked her social media, and what I saw was shocking. Claire had taken to posting long, emotional rants about me, our relationship, and the divorce. She painted herself as a victim, detailing how I had cruelly ended our marriage and how I was allegedly trying to ruin her life. But the most shocking post was a video. Claire was sitting in front of the camera, makeup streaked from crying, and she had clearly been drinking. In the video, she sobbed and accused me of being heartless and unfeeling. She even mentioned Evan, claiming that he was the only one who had ever really understood her. The posts were getting a lot of attention, and it was clear that Claire was using social media to gain sympathy and paint me as the villain. I was initially tempted to respond, to defend myself publicly, but I knew that engaging with her in that way would only escalate the drama and potentially make things worse. Instead, I decided to handle it quietly. I spoke with my lawyer about the situation, and we discussed the possibility of a cease and desist letter. The last thing I wanted was for Claire to continue airing our dirty laundry and spreading false information about me. My lawyer agreed it was a good idea, and we prepared the necessary documents. Meanwhile, Claire's public meltdown seemed to reach its peak. She started showing up at places I frequented, trying to confront me and make scenes. Once, she showed up at my favorite cafe and caused a commotion, shouting accusations and crying in front of a shocked crowd. I ignored her, keeping my distance and focusing on not letting her provoke me. The cease and desist letter was delivered, and while Claire initially reacted with anger, she eventually started to quiet down. It was clear that her public displays of drama were not getting the reaction she had hoped for. With Claire's final act of desperation behind us, I was finally able to start focusing on moving forward with my life. I continued to rebuild, exploring new hobbies, reconnecting with old friends, and finding new ways to enjoy life on my own. The pain was still there, but with each passing day, it became a little more manageable. In the end, Claire's actions only reinforced my decision to end the relationship. Her desperate attempts to manipulate and gain sympathy were just more evidence of why we were better off apart. I was ready to leave the past behind and embrace a new chapter, one where I could find happiness and peace without the shadows of betrayal hanging over me. After Claire's dramatic farewell, life began to shift in a positive direction. The immediate chaos had settled, and I found myself trying to rebuild and find a new rhythm. The healing process wasn't linear, but I was determined to turn the page. I focused on self-improvement and finding joy in the small things. I started attending a local yoga class, something I'd always been curious about but never had the time for. It was a great way to clear my mind and get some much-needed exercise. I also began volunteering at a community center, helping with various projects and events. It felt good to give back and connect with others who shared similar values. One day, while volunteering, I met Lena. She was a fellow volunteer and immediately struck me as warm and genuine. We got to talking, and I found myself enjoying her company more than I'd anticipated. We started spending time together outside of our volunteer work, grabbing coffee and talking about our shared interests. As time went on, Lena and I developed a genuine friendship, and it eventually blossomed into something more. It was a slow burn, but I appreciated the gradual nature of our connection. Lena was kind, understanding, and had a way of making me feel comfortable and valued. One evening, We were walking through a local park after dinner, and she took my hand in hers. The simple gesture was enough to make me realize how much I had missed genuine affection and connection. It was a moment of clarity and reassurance that life could still hold beautiful possibilities. Despite the new beginnings with Lena, I had to face some lingering challenges from the past. Claire continued to pop up occasionally, trying to reinsert herself into my life. She would send sporadic texts, often filled with guilt and regret. I learned to handle them with grace and distance, understanding that these attempts were just another way for her to regain control. One particularly challenging encounter happened at a mutual friends gathering. Claire showed up uninvited and tried to pull me aside for a private conversation. I was hesitant, but agreed to talk briefly. Claire expressed regret and tried to justify her actions, claiming she'd been struggling with personal issues and that she was seeking help. It was clear she was still trying to play the victim, but I listened politely and then made my exit. As I moved forward, the past became less of a burden. The healing process was ongoing, but I began to embrace the future with optimism. Lena and I grew closer, and our relationship deepened. I was finally learning to trust and open up again, something I had thought might be impossible after everything with Claire. In the end, the experience had taught me a lot about resilience, self-worth, and the importance of surrounding myself with people who genuinely cared. It was a reminder that even after the darkest times, there could be light and joy ahead. Life was full of surprises, and I was ready to face whatever came next with hope and an open heart. As I settled into my new routine with Lena and continued my journey of self-discovery, life seemed to be finding its rhythm again. However, one evening brought an unexpected twist that challenged the sense of closure I had started to feel. It was a regular Tuesday, and I was at home relaxing after work when my phone rang. It was Sarah, the friend who had first alerted me to Claire's social media meltdown. Her voice was unusually serious. "Hey, I need to talk to you about something important," Sarah said. "I think you should know that Claire's been telling people some things about you that might not be true." I felt a pang of irritation, mixed with curiosity. "What is she saying now?" Sarah hesitated before continuing. "Claire's been going around saying that you're the reason for all the drama. She's telling people that you were abusive and manipulative, and that she only acted out because she was pushed to her limits." I was stunned. "What? That's completely false. She's the one who betrayed me." "I know," Sarah said, "but it seems like Claire's trying to rewrite the narrative. Some of our mutual friends are starting to believe her because they haven't heard your side of the story." I felt a mix of anger and frustration. I had moved on, and now it seemed like Claire was trying to drag me back into her chaos. "Thanks for letting me know. I'll deal with it." I decided to address the situation calmly and assertively. I reached out to a few close friends who I knew would support me and explained the truth about the situation. It was frustrating to have to rehash old wounds, but I needed to protect my reputation and set the record straight. A few weeks later, I received a call from Claire's lawyer. Claire was apparently trying to reopen the divorce settlement, claiming that she hadn't received a fair share of our assets and alleging emotional distress. It felt like a last-ditch attempt to get more from me, or to drag me back into her orbit. I was prepared for this. With my lawyer's advice, we gathered evidence and documentation to counter Claire's claims. We had a solid case, and I wasn't about to let her manipulate me into giving her more. Meanwhile, Lena continued to be a source of support and comfort. She was understanding and patient as I navigated these new challenges. Our relationship grew stronger as we faced obstacles together. Lena's presence was a stark contrast to the chaos Claire had brought into my life. Her kindness and steadiness helped me stay grounded and focused on what truly mattered. As the legal battles continued, I started to see the end of this chapter approaching. The evidence was clear, and Claire's claims were proving to be unfounded. I was ready to put this part of my life behind me for good. Through all the ups and downs, I remained committed to my path of healing and growth. The unexpected revelations and challenges only reinforced my determination to move forward and build a future that was free of the pain and betrayal of the past. With the legal battles behind me and Claire's attempts to rewrite history falling flat, I finally felt like I could put the past where it belonged, behind me. Life was starting to feel like it was returning to a sense of normalcy, and I was ready to embrace a new chapter. Lena and I had been growing closer, and our relationship had become a source of genuine joy and stability. We decided to take a weekend trip together, a chance to relax and enjoy each other's company away from the stress of daily life. We chose a cozy cabin in the mountains, a place that promised tranquility and a break from the hustle of the city. The trip was everything we needed. The cabin was charming, surrounded by breathtaking views and the peaceful sounds of nature. We spent our days hiking, cooking together, and simply enjoying each other's presence. It was a refreshing change from the turbulence of the past year. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace, Lena took my hand and looked at me with a sincerity that made my heart swell. "I'm really grateful for what we have," she said softly. "You've been through so much, and I admire your strength and resilience." I squeezed her hand and smiled. "I'm grateful for you too. You've been a steady presence in my life, and it means more than you know." Our connection deepened during that trip, and it felt like a turning point in our relationship. We talked about the future, dreams, and what we wanted out of life. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of hope and excitement about what lay ahead. Upon returning home, I decided to make a few changes to symbolize this fresh start. I redecorated my apartment, creating a space that felt entirely my own, free from any reminders of the past. I also started pursuing new hobbies and interests, like taking a painting class and exploring new culinary skills. It was a way to reinvent myself and embrace new experiences. Lena and I continued to grow as a couple, building a strong foundation based on mutual respect and understanding. We started talking more seriously about our future together, discussing the possibility of moving in together and what that would look like. It was exciting to think about building a life with someone who truly cared for me and supported my growth. The past was still a part of my story, but it no longer defined me. I had learned valuable lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of surrounding myself with people who uplifted me. The journey of healing had been long and challenging, but it had led me to a place where I could embrace the present and look forward to the future with optimism. As I moved forward, I carried with me the strength and wisdom gained from the experiences of the past. The future was filled with possibilities, and I was ready to explore them with a hopeful heart and a renewed sense of purpose. Just when I thought life was settling into a pleasant routine, I encountered a twist I hadn't anticipated. It happened on a crisp autumn morning, as I was out running errands. I had just finished shopping for groceries and was heading back to my car when I saw someone standing by the side of the parking lot, looking out of place. As I approached, I realized it was Claire. I froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. Claire looked different. Her appearance was disheveled, and she had a distant, lost look in her eyes. When she saw me, her face lit up with a mix of relief and trepidation. "Hi," she said, her voice sounding more subdued than I remembered. "I didn't expect to run into you." I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "Claire, what are you doing here?" I was just passing through," she said awkwardly, shifting from foot to foot. "I wanted to see how you were doing." I was taken aback by the suddenness of the encounter. "I'm doing fine, thanks, but I'm not sure why you're here." Claire's eyes filled with a hint of tears, and she seemed to be struggling with her words. "I know things ended badly between us, and I'm really sorry for everything. I've been trying to move on and make sense of things. I guess I just wanted to see you one last time, to apologize." Her apology sounded genuine, but it was also laden with the same manipulative undertones I had come to expect. I struggled to reconcile this new, vulnerable side of her with the person I had known. "I appreciate the apology," I said cautiously, "but I've moved on, and I think it's best if we both focus on our own paths." Claire nodded, her expression one of acceptance, mingled with sadness. "I understand. I just wanted you to know that I'm working on myself. I'm seeing a therapist and trying to make things right. I was skeptical but chose to respond with grace. I hope you find what you're looking for. Take care, Claire. She gave a weak smile and walked away, leaving me to process the encounter. It was strange to see her in such a different light, and it stirred up feelings I thought I had long since buried. It was a reminder that the past could still reach out in unexpected ways, but it also reaffirmed that I was on the right path. After the encounter, I shared what had happened with Lena. Her support was unwavering, and she helped me work through the emotions that surfaced. It was another step in the healing process, and Lena's presence reminded me of the stability and happiness I had found in our relationship. I continued to focus on building a future with Lena, embracing the opportunities that came our way, and exploring new aspects of life. The unexpected encounter with Claire had been unsettling, but it also reinforced my commitment to moving forward and not letting the past dictate my future. As I continued to adjust to life post-divorce and build a new routine with Lena, I realized that reconnecting with old friends could be a valuable part of my healing process. Many of them had been distant during the turbulence of my relationship with Claire, and I missed the sense of camaraderie and support they had once provided. One weekend, I reached out to a few friends I hadn't seen or spoken to in a long time. I arranged a small get-together at a local pub, hoping it would be a relaxed setting where we could catch up and rekindle our connections. When the day arrived, I was both excited and a bit nervous. I hadn't seen these friends in so long that I wasn't sure how the evening would go. But as soon as I walked into the pub, I was greeted with warm hugs and enthusiastic smiles. "Hey, it's so good to see you," Mark, one of my closest friends, exclaimed. "We've missed you." "Yeah, where have you been hiding?" Lisa added with a grin. "It's been ages." The evening was filled with laughter, stories, and a genuine sense of camaraderie. We reminisced about old times, shared updates about our lives, and offered support and encouragement to each other. It felt like no time had passed at all. As we talked, I found myself opening up about the challenges I had faced with Claire and how I was moving forward. My friends listened with empathy and offered their support. It was refreshing to share my experiences with people who genuinely cared and understood. One of the highlights of the evening was when Jamie, a friend from college, brought up an old hobby we used to enjoy together: hiking. "Remember when we used to go on those weekend hikes? We should totally plan another trip," Jamie suggested. The idea was met with enthusiasm, and we made plans to organize a hiking trip in a few weeks. It was exciting to think about reconnecting with nature and enjoying some quality time with friends. The evening ended on a high note, and as I left the pub, I felt a renewed sense of connection and belonging. Reconnecting with old friends was a reminder that there were still people who valued me and that I wasn't alone in my journey. Lena and I continued to explore our relationship and future together, but the renewed friendships added another layer of fulfillment to my life. It was a reminder that even after the most challenging times, there were still meaningful connections and experiences to be had. With each passing day, I felt more grounded and optimistic about the future. Reconnecting with friends, embracing new experiences, and continuing to build a life with Lena all contributed to a sense of renewed hope and purpose. Life was moving forward, and I was ready to embrace it with an open heart. Just when life seemed to be settling into a comfortable routine, an unexpected visitor from the past made an appearance. I was at home, enjoying a quiet evening with Lena, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and a quick glance through the peephole revealed an unfamiliar face. I opened the door to find a man in his early 30s, dressed in a professional suit. He introduced himself as Daniel, a private investigator. My initial reaction was a mix of confusion and curiosity. "Hi, I'm Daniel," he said, holding out a business card. "I've been hired to look into some matters related to your previous marriage." I felt a jolt of surprise and concern. "My previous marriage? What are you talking about?" Daniel explained that he had been hired by Claire. She had apparently come across new information or suspicions and wanted to investigate further. He didn't provide many details, but he mentioned that he was looking into certain claims Claire had made and was seeking more context on the matter. I was taken aback. Why would Claire be hiring a private investigator now? The divorce is final. Daniel shrugged. I'm not sure of her exact motivations, but she seemed determined to pursue this. I thanked Daniel for his time and promised to consider any information he might need from me. After he left, I discussed the situation with Lena. We were both puzzled and somewhat uneasy about Claire's continued interference in my life. Lena was supportive, but concerned about the potential for added stress. It's strange that Claire would be pursuing this after everything that's happened. Maybe she's still trying to create drama or find a way to turn things around. I agreed. It was unsettling to think that Claire was still attempting to disrupt my life, especially when I had been working so hard to move on. I decided to consult my lawyer about the situation to ensure I was prepared for any potential developments. My lawyer advised me to stay calm and cooperative, but also to set clear boundaries. If Claire's investigator reached out with legitimate questions, I should respond honestly and promptly. However, I was not obligated to provide any information beyond what was necessary, and I could refuse to engage if the inquiries became intrusive or irrelevant. Over the next few weeks, Daniel occasionally contacted me with questions about my interactions with Claire and the details of our divorce settlement. I answered his queries professionally and provided the requested information without divulging unnecessary details. Despite my attempts to remain composed, the situation added an unexpected layer of stress. I continued to focus on my relationship with Lena, my renewed friendships, and my personal growth. I knew that Claire's actions, while disruptive, would not define my future. One evening, Daniel came by again with a final update. He informed me that Claire's claims had been thoroughly investigated and found to be baseless. She had been trying to gather information to justify her actions and manipulate the narrative, but there was no substantial evidence to support her claims. As Daniel wrapped up his investigation, I felt a sense of relief. The finality of the situation allowed me to put another piece of the past behind me. Lena and I continued to build our life together, and I felt more confident in embracing the future without the lingering shadows of my past. The surprise from the past had been a reminder that while I couldn't control others' actions, I could control how I responded and continued to move forward. The journey was far from perfect, but each step brought me closer to the life I envisioned. A life of growth, connection, and renewed hope. With the closure of the investigation and Claire's attempts at disruption behind me, life began to feel more stable and promising. Lena and I were growing closer, and the prospect of a future together seemed bright. It was during this period of relative calm that a new opportunity presented itself, one that would change the trajectory of my life in unexpected ways. One day, while I was at the community center where I volunteered, I was approached by Angela, the director of the center. She had a thoughtful look on her face as she asked if we could have a private conversation. "Sure, Angela," I said, curious. "What's up?" Angela invited me to her office and, after a few minutes of small talk, got straight to the point. "We've been very impressed with your work here and your dedication to the community. There's an opening for a program coordinator position, and I believe you'd be a perfect fit for it." The offer caught me by surprise. I had always enjoyed volunteering at the center and felt fulfilled by the work, but I hadn't considered it as a potential career path. Angela continued. The role would involve managing various community programs, coordinating with volunteers, and helping to develop new initiatives. It's a significant step up, but I think you're more than capable. I was intrigued by the possibility. It was an opportunity to turn my passion for community service into a meaningful career. "I'm flattered by the offer," I said, "but I need some time to think it over and consider what it would mean for my future." Angela nodded understandingly. "Take your time. If you have any questions or need more details, just let me know." Over the next few weeks, I carefully weighed the pros and cons of the position. I spoke with Lena, who was supportive and encouraging. She helped me consider how the role aligned with my long-term goals and passions. The idea of turning my volunteer work into a full-time career was exciting, and it felt like a natural extension of the positive changes I was making in my life. Eventually, I decided to accept the position. The transition was smooth, and I found myself excited and motivated by the new responsibilities. The role allowed me to use my skills in new ways and make a tangible impact on the community. It was fulfilling to see the direct results of my efforts and to work closely with a team dedicated to making a difference. As I settled into my new role, Lena and I continued to strengthen our relationship. We talked about our future plans and began considering the possibility of taking our next steps together, perhaps moving in together or even discussing long-term commitments. The prospect of building a future with someone who shared my values and supported my growth was incredibly reassuring. The new opportunity at the community center was more than just a job. It was a symbol of how far I had come since the tumultuous days of my past. It represented a fresh start and a chance to embrace my passions fully. Looking back, the challenges and betrayals I had faced had led me to this point of growth and renewal. Each step, each unexpected turn, had brought me closer to a life that was richer and more fulfilling. With Lena by my side and a new career path ahead, I felt ready to embrace the future with optimism and a renewed sense of purpose. As I settled into my new role at the community center and continued to build my relationship with Lena, I found that the sense of stability and fulfillment I had been working towards was finally coming to fruition. Life was moving forward, and the future was looking brighter than ever. One evening, Lena and I decided to host a small gathering at our place to celebrate the new chapter in our lives and express our gratitude to the friends and family who had supported us along the way. It was a casual affair with good food, laughter, and heartfelt conversations. Our friends were genuinely happy for us, and it felt wonderful to share this moment of joy with them. During the gathering, Lena gave a heartfelt toast. "I just want to say how grateful I am for everyone here tonight. Your support has meant so much to both of us. It's been a journey, but we've found our way through, and I'm excited for what the future holds." Her words resonated deeply with me. Looking around at the faces of those who had been there for me, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. It was a powerful reminder of the positive impact that genuine connections and support can have on one's life. As the evening went on, the conversations turned to future plans and dreams. Several friends shared their own updates and aspirations, and it was inspiring to hear about their journeys and ambitions. It felt like a celebration, not just of our new beginnings, but of everyone's continued growth and success. After the gathering, Lena and I took a quiet moment on the balcony, overlooking the city lights. "This feels really good," I said, leaning into her. "It's amazing how far we've come and how much we've grown." Lena smiled and took my hand. "It does feel good, and it's a reminder that even after the toughest times, there's always a chance for new beginnings and fresh starts." I nodded in agreement. The past had been challenging, but it had led me to a place of renewed hope and purpose. The experiences I had gone through had shaped me, but they no longer defined me. Instead, they had paved the way for the positive changes and opportunities that lay ahead. With the support of Lena, my friends, and the new path I had embraced, I felt confident in facing the future. The journey had been long and often painful, but it had brought me to a place of growth and happiness. The lessons learned and the strength gained from overcoming adversity were invaluable. As I looked ahead, I knew that life would continue to present its share of challenges and surprises. But with a renewed sense of purpose and the support of those who mattered most, I was ready to embrace whatever came my way. The power of new beginnings was evident in every aspect of my life. Each day was a chance to build on the foundation I had created, to grow, and to find joy in the present. And as I walked forward into the future, I did so with a heart full of hope and a spirit ready to embrace the endless possibilities that lay ahead.